Welcome to Raw History. Here we cut through romanticization and speculation to show you the unfiltered reality of human history. When the C-ration and later the K-ration were introduced during the Second World War, soldiers immediately complained that the food tasted foul unless heated, lacking an equivalent of the German Esbit cooker or the British Tommy cooker. The US GI seemed destined to consume his rations cold. The challenge extended beyond mere taste preferences. Cold food in winter conditions provided inadequate calories for soldiers operating in extreme environments, and the psychological impact of eating cold rations day after day degraded morale in ways that military planners initially underestimated. The German solution had existed since 1936. Esbit is a type of hexamine-based solid fuel invented in Germany in that year, with the name being an acronym for the initials of the inventor, Erich Schumm, and Brennstoff in tablet form, meaning fuel in tablet form. The Erich Schumm company also made small portable stoves for use with this fuel, initially advertised as a way to warm food and beverages for sport and hiking, for travel, and for workers to use on their breaks. Prior to 1945, there were a few different types of these stoves offered, of which the most commonly encountered today is the Model 9. Esbit stoves were issued to German soldiers in the Second World War and were also available for soldiers to buy. They are mentioned in memoirs written by Wehrmacht soldiers and also in memoirs of American troops who served in Europe who used these as captured items. The tablets burn smokelessly, have a high energy density, do not liquefy while burning, and leave no ashes. In place of many other ways of heating rations, the fuel tablets have a few advantages. They burn at a high temperature, smokeless, and don't liquefy while burning. The Esbit firm was founded in 1933, and 3 years later the first tablets were sold. US industry was prepared to step in and lend a hand, for a suitable profit, of course. The US Army Quartermaster Corps quickly let out contracts for individual cans of gelled alcohol, known in the US by the commercial name Sterno. These fuel tablets, ration heating, were small cans with pry-off friction lids and came in two sizes, a 1.5-ounce can intended for heating individual rations and a 6-ounce can for heating the 5-in-1 group ration or 6 individual rations. Sterno had several problems. The wood alcohol used in its manufacture is toxic. The gel must be kept from air or the alcohol will evaporate, and the gel turns liquid at high temperatures and leaks out of the can. Subsequently, the US Army turned to Norman Stark, a consultant who had already solved several technical problems for the military services. In March 1943, he was asked to develop a new fuel tablet which would overcome these problems. The Army, however, added specific stipulations. The new tablet had to be light, weighing no more than 6 ounces and capable of heating 1 complete daily ration. The solution came in compressed fuel tablets embedded in wax-impregnated packaging. The size A was usually issued as 1 bar about 3 3/4 inches long by 1.5 inches wide by about 1/2 inch deep. The wax-impregnated box was printed with instructions and dashed lines so it could be cut into 3 1.25-ounce individual tablets, 1 for each meal. 4 such bars were wrapped together and occasionally provided in a case of C-rations. The US Army Quartermaster Corps made no distinction between the two types of fuel tablets, referring to both as heat units. The British Army developed its own solution through the Hexi Burner, a compact foldable metal stove used primarily for heating rations and boiling water in field conditions. The design was simple and practical, a folding metal base, typically made of lightweight aluminum or brass, that acts as both a stand and windbreak when opened. This minimalist construction allowed soldiers to easily store it in mess tins or rucksack pouches. Hexamine fuel, first developed in Germany in 1936 by the company Esbit, became widely adopted by various armed forces, including the British military. The British Army began using the Hexi Burner in the 1950s, integrating it into 24-hour combat ration packs, often referred to as compo rations. It was valued for its ability to reliably provide heat for cooking in virtually any environment. Soldiers could boil water, heat up ration tins, or make hot drinks with minimal setup. The system was rugged, portable, and effective even in poor weather. The deployment of folding hexamine stoves and fuel tins was born out of necessity to re-enter the European struggle, at least for the advanced units for a couple of days after insertion. The early model of the stove had angled upper surfaces that presented a dish when unfolded to center the mug or tin for heating. These were contemporary to the painted and silkscreen tins. Later stoves were simplified with a flat top and featured tins that were now wrapped in paper instructions. So the 1944 patent stove and fuel tin were tropicalized, with extra attention paid to preservative paints and seals. The latest stove design, interestingly, featured curved legs when viewed from above, and it was specifically made to fit inside the tin along with its burner disc and fuel. The instructions, by the way, were also tucked right inside the tin. Fuel tabs produced usable heat quite efficiently, making a pint of tea that gave off steam in about 8 minutes, with a total burn time of around 12 minutes for each tab. Despite their convenience, hexamine tablets actually carried some significant health risks that, well, just weren't fully understood during the Second World War. According to Esbit's safety data sheet, combustion can create formaldehyde, ammonia, nitrogen oxide, and hydrogen cyanide, and, ingestion may cause nausea, vomiting, gastrointestinal disturbances, and even kidney damage. When burned, the chemical oxidation of the fuel yields noxious fumes, so it's important to cook foods in a container such as a pot or pan with a tight-fitting lid. Vietnam War veterans recalled that the fumes from the early fuel were, honestly, very nasty. Many soldiers in Vietnam actually ignored the Army-issued hexamine heating tablets, feeling they were just too weak. Instead, their fuel of choice was a small chunk of C4 plastic explosive, torn from one of the brown-wrapped demolition blocks they carried. Safely stable unless it had a detonator in it, adequately ventilated C4 burned with an intense blue-white flame, making it an ideal cooking fuel, though of course this practice was officially forbidden. Despite its advantages, the Hexi burner had some drawbacks, such as the toxic fumes released by burning hexamine tablets and, the residue left behind on cookware. By 2018, the British Ministry of Defence actually began shifting to more modern alternatives, signing contracts with BCB International to supply FireDragon stoves and fuel. FireDragon, just to clarify, is an ethanol-based, non-toxic, biodegradable fuel made from sugar beets that ignites easily, even when wet, and burns cleaner than hexamine. Cardiff-based survival equipment manufacturer BCB International developed FireDragon's solid bio-ethanol fuel to replace the traditional hexamine fuel tablets soldiers use to heat food and drinks out in the field. The UK Ministry of Defence awarded a 4-year contract to BCB International for the supply of a new operational ration cooker and fuel to replace hexamine tablets. There's a growing body of evidence about the health risks associated with hexamine-based fire-lighting fuels and, combined with the UK MOD's decision to use a superior alternative, those in charge of combat feeding programs in other armies are now reconsidering hexamine's suitability as a fuel for the future. While officially retired from British service, the Hexi Burner remains in use among survivalists, cadets, and campers due to its simplicity, availability through military surplus and, its historical legacy in British field gear. The German Esbit stoves continue production today, with the company still manufacturing variants of the original Model 9 design. The principle behind fuel tablets, portable, stable, high-energy density heat sources that require no liquid fuel, remains valid even as the specific chemical formulation has evolved towards safer alternatives. Subscribe to Raw History for evidence-based explorations of military innovations that solved real problems while creating unexpected consequences. And hey, share your experiences with field heating equipment in the comments below.